Welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. We're back on our 79 Little Red Express truck, and I want to show you some progress. Let's get after it. Last time I got my frame needle scaled and pressure washed. Since then, I went ahead and pulled the hood hinges and the heater box, and we're doing new stuff from Classic Auto Air. It got here in about 8 days after ordering it, so that's pretty quick. Good guys. I think they're out of Texas. So I got that stuff ready to go in. I got that old heater box out, and I'm glad we removed it. Check out all the yumminess that just rides around in the truck with you forever and ever. I am going to attempt, I can't promise, but I'm really going to try to use this original selector here. And basically what you have to do is replace the cable, hooks to the cable and sends a signal to the box. And the guy said, well, there's only one of those, this other one hooks to the vacuum switch or vacuum pod or whatever that is. Probably vacuum switch. I said, all I'm gonna do is mount myself. I'll make another one of these that will clip a cable on this side and just drill myself a hole and tap it to where it'll pull the cable eyelet just like the bottom one does. I think that wouldn't be hard to engineer. And then he can keep his original look here, but as he slides it, it'll go hot and cold. The other thing would be for the fan speed, low, medium, high. So I might have to figure out how to wire that in, if this switch is still good, how to wire it in. That way we don't have to have an aftermarket knob system of some kind. It'll look cleaner. So I'm going to attempt that. We got a lot of room under here. Some more insulation falling down and stuff. I've got to make a filler panel to go in there, and you'll see how this lip is rolled. See here. If I just put a flat piece of metal behind there, it'll actually stick on the inside of that, and I think it'll look bad. So what I'm thinking about doing is put my flat piece of metal mark all the way around and then carefully trim it to where it comes out flush with this. After that, I can basically weld a seam on the back of that. Not on this, but weld it on the back of my plate. And then the plate will bolt in, the plug for this. But if anybody ever wanted to go back factory, they could just unbolt the plate out, take the other system out and go. I got to strip the firewall. I got to strip these inner parts of our fenders here. That's going to be real fun. Or at least get them really sanded. I've got a good primer to go there. Finish stripping the inside of the core support. Repair our front frame. If y'all remember some of this goodness, I've got my welder hooked up in here finally. And I do think we're going to do some kind of brace in the front. If I don't buy a brace, I'll make a brace. And I need to weld this corner up here. I would call it a cab corner, but it's not. It's a radiator support corner. So those welds popped loose and those welds popped loose. So right now it's not really doing anything right there. I'm not sure what's holding up this front section except the piece itself. And probably from somebody hooking a chain here and ripping it one time when the truck got stuck or something. So that needs addressed. Check this stuff out. Boom. Express Media in Jacksonville, Arkansas. It took them about 2 weeks, which I'm not complaining about. It all looks nice. They called it PPG epoxy primer. Said that I can basically scuff it and shoot it. So I may give that a really light wet sand. Probably 400. Just to knock off some of the little boogers and whatever else. And then I'll scuff around all my edges with a good Scotch-Brite, and those will be ready to shoot. I think I can do the bottom side with like a Raptor liner or something so that it'll be protected from rocks. He does live somewhere around a gravel road. I'm not going to say he's on a gravel road, but more than likely he is. Still need to paint inside here. I've got work to do. But I think my first step for the day is pop open my classic auto air box and get that big air box underneath the dash. Just be sure it fits. If it doesn't, I need to make a phone call. So let me jump back inside here. These are there's a temp control unit, and all it does is slide. So basically you're doing the same thing as you would if you had the switches mounted out here, but instead it mounts them sideways. And I think they said you have to have 2 or 1.5 inches of travel at least for this cable when it goes like that. And we've got that. I measured it. See my little mark ahead of time here. So that should be good. The fan controller I was worried about. Where did he go? See, theirs has 5 wires sticking through. The factory one here only has 3. Figure out a way to mount this. See, here's just a little, this factory one had a little L bracket here. So all I need to do is make myself a different kind of L bracket that will stick the correct length through. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm assuming one of those is off while you're clicking it, if that's all the way one way. I'll have to actually read the directions. Here's our little heater box, HVAC box, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. So much smaller and compact, and with technology, you know, that little blower is going to kick a lot more air out than the old school one. Here's our condenser, and it got a little waffle drop here from China. See there? I called the company, super great, sending me out a new one. They want the old one back, keep the box. Next step, I was measuring for my firewall opening, and I had a sheet of metal that is, I think, 12 by 20 or 12 by 18, and I just missed it. It's too small. So I have my new metal coming. It should be here on Friday. But while that's on the way, I can start prepping all this nasty, ugly stuff to get primed up. I got to do up to my edges. Also want to work on this frame. John Roberts sent me a link to the good front brace for this. So I want to get these booger welds cleaned up, find that crack where it's continuing to crack, drill it out and weld it up. I've got my welder ready. And also, we got to patch this up. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I know my metal that I've got here will work for that at least. I'll let you skip the fun part. I took my big death wheel, came all the way through. I know my line's just there. It's a little crooked, it's okay. This side's not attached at all. There was no plug weld here. Maybe they plugged it over here. There's a plug weld 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna drill out the center of those and then pop that piece out. I'm trying not to really distort it because I was gonna use it as a template, and then we'll have a brand new piece of metal on our top here. I'll drill a few holes in it just like factory and clamp together, drill out my holes for our little fender attachment, whatever you want to call that. So let me pop that one off and lift off. There was somebody last video that said when doing body work it always gets worse. Looks like 30 or 40 years of packed in clay mud and old rust, so I'm gonna vacuum it out. I'm glad I have my needle scaler. I can get some of that crap out of there, and it looks yummy. It's not stupid if it works, right? So there's my piece of stainless wire. I've got a little screw on the end of it. My little screw. Let's vacuum that a few more times and repeat the process. Had a nice little cleanup go on here. You can still see some of that little rust in there. I'm gonna spray and treat that with some rust blast. So that is like phosphoric acid, I believe it is. The stuff I want to put down here is some of my Permatex rust treatment in a little bottle. It is barium sulfate, vanilla Valinidine acrylic. Anyway, if you get this on your skin, there's the chemicals. It burns very, very, very badly. So, seals and protects metal, fast drying, prevents new rust. It turns into like the purple coating. And I'll get all that coated up. Here's my new piece. And it goes just like that. I'm gonna pull it out just a little bit. And I was a little nervous about, oh no, I missed the mark on this little spot here and here. You know, I mean, you want it to be as nice as it can be. But I went and looked at the other side, and all we were doing was just replicating factory. See that 1/4 inch hanging over there? Mine's better than, or about like that. That one's kind of small, but here we go. There's our little repair in place. I may do a little bit more. I could weld right across here and grind and get more of that out. But remember, your battery tray is going to be, battery tray lives right here. Nobody would ever actually see that down in there, but I know it's there. So I'll weld a little bit more on it. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and pop my cowl panel off. And main reason, I gotta match this paint. Well, twofold. I need to match that paint. Also, I need to fix his wipers for him. You see that one is drooped down over there, but he said they weren't working. I'm assuming the linkage is off in there. You know, those little bushings are terrible about going bad. So let me pop my wipers off, slide our cowl out, and then I can carry it to get color matched. Once it gets color matched, I'll have the correct color red to match the outside of the truck for the engine compartment. There we go. Shouldn't be too bad, unless they did something silly, which I don't doubt. Here's my little corner of the core support. That's kind of cool. It's got a serial number on it right there. I didn't know that was actually a thing. But anyway, it goes like this. The rubber itself, isolator, whatever you want to call that, looks really good. And I drilled myself 3 holes on the backside, 2 holes here, 2 holes here. So I'll be able to kind of triangulate it to all 3 areas. I'll have to come through here and weld those 2 and then weld it to the support this way. And I'll just take my little roll lock and clean all that paint up and stuff. Clean this off better. It's kind of rusty and ugly. Get this corner back to where it should be. I don't know if I can see that amount of flex right there. It'll be attached again. And you can imagine with this thing rubbing before, it's probably making a squeaky sound. I got her welded on in here. See my 1, 2, 3. Got it bolted down in place. Got my welds here and just kind of ground them for an initial kind of deal so I can smooth them up a little bit. I still got to strip and clean a bunch of stuff over here, but I moved to the big ugly steering stuff because here's the inside. Somebody's previous repair. The outside, I began kind of dressing their welds up so it'd look a little better, and I can find the other little cracks. I don't think I'm going to take all this inside stuff smooth and flat. I purchased the steering brace that John Roberts sent me. So it came in. I will probably just grind whatever I have to get this thing to work. Here's our company. Dodge Connection. And they seem to be a nice Christian company, David and Kim. So thanks for including a letter here. And here's our brace. Also a daily bread. There we go. That looks great. Like it's kind of nice and black powder coated. I'm gonna slip it into place and see where I need to grind at. That's actually gonna cover up a lot of our ugly in there, I do believe. I cannot tell you how thoroughly impressed I am with this brace. Not that my opinion matters, but I am installing it right now. You gotta drill yourself a hole in the bottom where that kind of wings in. You gotta drill yourself a hole in the very front, right there, where there's a kind of a factory dimple that goes out. I just got 4 random bolts in here right now, but man, for all 4 of those to line up and it not be floppy, loose, whatever, 100 out of 10, I'm super thoroughly impressed with this. Also, it covers up all that ugly weld that somebody boogered in there. So that saves me some work. I can finish touching up the outside. So I'm looking for holes and cracks. I know there's a crack growing more right there. Hopefully you can see that. So I'll drill it out and then finish welding him. The other stuff is kind of ugly, but it's maybe a few small holes through here. So I'll get it welded back up. And then while I'm there, I'll find my hole here, drill it out, and drill my hole from the bottom side, which I can do from the top side since I don't have a radiator in. So here's a view from the top of that welded and dressed up. I'm gonna leave it alone and move on to something else. I think it looks a lot better when it gets painted. It's gonna be almost undetectable, especially when you put the giant inner fenders in here and it has a big rubber mat that goes here and it has a steering box that goes there. Nobody will ever know. Over here, I got to make myself a block-off plate for the air box. And I have my piece of cardboard that the piece of metal came in. Something I'm having to deal with here. And I don't want this to look tacky. I've seen people in the past just take a sheet of metal and bolt it behind here. Bam. Well, you can do that. I'm really trying not to. But there's a lip. See that fat lip right there? So my goal was buy a sheet of metal that is as thick as that lip. It will set perfectly flush inside of this hole, and then I can put my, basically weld some backers on to here and bolt it in just like factory. So you'll still have factory studs and bolts, or the factory nuts, excuse me, sticking out. But instead you'll have a plate, and I'll run a bead of seam sealer all the way around. I think it'll look really nice. That's my goal. So to do that, I got to get my cardboard in. So there's my piece of cardboard, and voila. I think that's an 11 gauge piece of metal. And you'd be surprised, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. It took a while to make it fit that hole like that. But I feel accomplished. I got it where it'll got to pop in from that way. There it is. A 24 by 12 is what I had to have. Thanks, Amazon. That is a piece of metal. So I'm assuming tomorrow, because I'm pretty tired of dealing with this for right now. I'll pop it back from the back, mark where these holes are, factory holes are, and then I can lay myself a strap, make straps all the way around, tack my straps from the back side, tack, and then pop my studs through, put the factory nuts on. This thing will be strong enough. If I want to bolt that aftermarket air conditioning box to it, no problem. It'll be strong. It'll probably take a small caliber handgun to get through it. Not that that's ever going to happen, but it's a lot stronger than just the old thin stuff from the factory. And if he ever wants to undo it, all he's got to do is unbolt it, pop the plate out the back, put the factory air box back in. But I like my way. That's basically what I was after. I went ahead and welded myself some brackets on the backside. You can kind of see those, like the heat marks there. And I ground that off with a smooth flat disc, what do you want to call that? So I need to sand that piece again, but I wanted to get it on and bolted up, mocked into place before I start sanding all the rest of the firewall. I just dropped our new classic auto air condenser in, and it's not dented up. It looks perfect, and it really nicely fits the hole. I'm gonna raise it up some before actually mounting it. But I wanted to check. Got some of the play pretties moved out of the shop so I can actually paint in here. You'll see got my little fan set up. So Joe helped me with this. You flip that one over, it goes on that side, and that one flips over and goes on this side. So you have your two fans, you roll your door down, and those babies pull pretty good air. It would almost pull my door closed. Open, but not quite. But you could tell as you close the door, you could feel more air rushing through it on the other side. So that's good. I know the place is not sealed up perfect yet, but at least that'll give me a start to see how they go. If I like them, I'm gonna go ahead and cut out and put them in the wall there on both sides. Otherwise, I should probably go ahead and end the video here. I got a little more prep work to do, and if I show it all in this video, this thing will be an hour long. So next time, we're gonna spray some red and probably spray some black. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch you next time. All right, Mopar people.